You are now listening to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Molten Fantasy Sport Podcast, and I am your host, Rob Kennedy, and coach of the delicious raviolis for AFL Supercoach season 2023. I sit here with my two fantastic co-hosts, but before I introduce them, this is your time to click subscribe. We appreciate everybody who has. We're hitting some great numbers. Click subscribe. Don't miss another episode between now and the season starting. We have another great episode to get into, which is revealing my co-host, Justin Herbert's team. Justin, how are you?
Very, very well, boys. This is the team. This is the team. All right. Now, Kanga, Roo. Clarko's disciples have arrived, and we're here to drop some knowledge on you, the listeners. Ladies and gents, if this isn't it, this is it. We just got to reveal the team. This is it. I'm excited.
I can feel a sense of excitement.
Oh,
it's
I've been
kind
waiting
of
for
like
this.
I feel like I needed a sound grab. And sorry, Mick, I will get to you in 1 second.
Okay.
I feel like we needed a sound grab from the wedding singer that I have the microphone and you have to listen to every goddamn word I have to say because we're going to hear a lot out of this man today. And I'm excited for it because for those of you listening at home, you could hear anything. So if the kids are in the car and they're parrots, maybe not the episode for you to listen to with the kids in the car right now. Maybe not. But I want to get to my stat man, my other co-host, the legend himself, Mickey Dell. How are you, mate?
Good, lads. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am the owner, the manager of Mixed Pigs 2023. Looking forward to hearing about your side, Justin. I reckon, I haven't seen it, but is Jason Horne-Francis in there?
Yoo-hoo!
He was number one picked if I was to do a draft for the biggest bus of all time. Okay? That's where he's at the moment. Hey, I don't
Put
know
that
about
one
you
in
boys,
just for you, mate.
but I listened into the Port Adelaide Intra Club on how it went the other day. And Jason Horne-Francis went as well as he did this time last year at our Intra Club. I was down there at Arden Street. I thought he's going to take six hangers, kick 5 goals, 30 disposals. You know what he did? He did absolutely nothing. And that's what he's going to do for his career. He's just an LDU and a Ben Cunnington wannabe.
Wow. This is a sneak preview to what is to come in this episode, and I can't wait. I have worn my Caruso jersey just to remind you of the bet we made last year. It makes sense for Justin's team for me to bring this bad boy out. We're going to roll on, though. Let's for anyone who's watching on YouTube, we will be sharing and revealing Justin's team. To anyone who's listening along on some audio mediums, we will be explaining them. Justin's going to talk us through his defenders, and then Mickey Dell and myself get the opportunity to just tell him how horrendous his team is and how badly we can't wait to beat him in our Supercoach League. We move on. We start with your defenders, and mids are going to be on the screen, but talk us through your defenders, Justin.
So I've started with a few premiums. Obviously, I've got your boy, just named Captain James Sicily. He's under a little bit of an injury cloud, so let's watch this space with what's going on there. But I think for me, he's first in my side. If everything is going all right with his health. Like I said before, I think the ball's going to be in the back line quite a lot with the Hawks. I think they're going to get absolutely smashed this year. They're not going to do really good. James Sicily is going to do really, really well because he's an awesome player. First pick, Sam Doherty. Apparently he's going to get some more midfield minutes, which is good. He's always been able to rack up the ball and do intercept marking. He's pretty much a lock for me. Nick Dacos, we've talked about him quite a lot. I think that he could be top 3 Brownlow. So at that price and him going into the midfield. He's another lock. Nick Haynes, so he's a new boy that I've just got in. The reason being is 2 years ago he was doing quite well, averaging around the high 80s, early 90s. He did that for 2 or 3 seasons, and then he dropped off quite a lot last year. I think with the new system, he's primed to break out, just because he's got a lot of dash, and apparently GWS want to play really, really fast. So I don't think GWS will be good this year either. So the ball will be down there. He'll get a lot of it, just like James Sicily. Ruben Gibney, we've talked about this boy a lot. He's a lock. He's in everyone's team. Now the 2 Brizzy boys. So we've got the Irishman, Connor McKenna, brother of Conor McGregor. So I thought they had the same last name for a second.
Can I play the bus noise again? Can I play the bus noise twice in the first 5 minutes of an episode?
Jesus, that was a bad one. He's not. Anyway, let's talk about this, boys. So, Connor McKenna, right, and Darcy Wilmot. Now, apparently Brisbane's team got leaked the other week, right? And Connor McKenna was their half-backman, right? Darcy Wilmot's apparently having a huge preseason. So, I think between them two, one of them's going to play meaningful minutes. They both could. So I've got them both in my team. But another thing to look out for there is Cam Rayner's training with the backs. So it'll be interesting to see what role he plays and how that affects both of these boys. Conor McKenna, the brother of Conor McGregor.
That is one of the funniest things I've heard, Justin.
We made a bit of a rule. We did make a bit of a rule with these podcasts and the team reveals that we would give people the opportunity to explain their team before we came in. But anyone who's watching us on YouTube, if we're on the screen, I don't know what our producer Nathan Brain's going to go with here, but I've marked it. We've written on our chat already to the boys to say it's marked, but it's about 30 seconds before the worst call in podcast history.
That's gonna stay though. Conor McKenna,
what's the worst call in podcast history?
Conor McKenna, the brother of Conor McGregor. Wowza.
That's staying. Gotta stay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I don't even know if you finished. Have you even mentioned your bench yet? So I don't know where we're at.
And then we've got Will Gould. He's another young boy, backman. I think Sydney are a little bit thin down there with the McCartan brothers. So I think that he could get a good crack at it this year. They could really shuffle it up back there. So that's my backline, boys. Critique away.
All right.
But do not tease Conor McKenna, because he's the brother of Conor McGregor.
No, he'll bash me. You're right. So, yeah. I don't mind your backline, mate. Like, you've got probably the world's most hated person at D1 there in James Sicily. I quite like that pick. Like, that could come off for you. My theories with Sicily is that they'll do a forward tag on him, given that the ball's going to be down there a lot this year.
What's the point? What's the point? Like they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose every week by 100. Are they just gonna like? Will they even care? You know, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Doherty's been training with the mids. I like that. Nick Haynes, if he gets back to that form, mate, that he did 2 years ago, that's a good shout. He was priced at 530,000 2 years ago. So I hope that comes off for you. That's ballsy. Conor McGregor there at D6. That's nice. And who is Will Gould? Like, he's been in everyone's team for 2 years and hasn't turned up. What's his go?
He's pretty highly rated. I think he's just gone through a bit of injury.
Yeah, we keep hearing that every year, don't we? Like,
yeah.
Actually, I need to see the bloke play before we pick him.
Well, yeah, I think they're pretty thin down back, though. Like, you just got the McCartan boys. Paddy's made of soft tissue. Like, you know, he could get a crack, and I think if he does, maybe adds a bit of extra dimension to their backline.
Yeah, there is word that you've got the McCartan boys and Aaron Francis from Essendon playing that intercept defender role at the moment there as well. So he's priced at 166k. He might be worth a shout as well. So that's one to watch there.
Yeah, I'm with Mick. I don't understand where this 8% ownership for Will Gould's come from a guy that just hasn't played football. Yeah, I'm really confused. I don't quite understand it. My 5 cents here would be, you've played it safe and you've played it strong with that D1, 2, 3, that I think Nick Haynes is too much of a risk. I think if you're going to put that money into your back line, I reckon stay safe is my vibe. I reckon you nearly just go the primos into the rookies, or at best maybe you throw in like a Jack Bowes or someone I think's got a bit more upside if he's picked round 1 to Nick Hayes, because Nick Hayes has just not given us that confidence enough that he's going to go back to that All-Australian. I don't mind the pick. I think it's ballsy. I think he could reward you for it. I think he has all the ability in the world to be a Tom Stewart type player, but you've played it strong with that top line that just kind of goes, I don't know if you take too much of a risk. I reckon you nearly get off. I reckon you nearly get just as much from a Wilmot on your bench to put him on the field and spend that money somewhere else, is my opinion.
I like, if this is the way you're thinking, Justin, that Himmelberg's now been training with the forward group. So they're going to need an intercept defender to play that role that he was. And Nick Haynes, he could be that man. So if that happens, like I'm with Rob, it's probably a bit ballsy for me, but if that pays off, that's a ripping pick, mate.
That's how I like to play it. I'm a gambling man.
We talked about him in our mid-price maniacs or in the podcast that we had. We know the quality that he has. He doesn't quite fit the trend at the moment either of he's getting too old or anything like that, so having some off years. So, mate, if it works, it works. Who knows where Whitfield will play in that team and those types of things as well. You're right, Himmelberg's the big, where does he go, what does he do? So, mate, as I said, it's a strong D1, 2, 3. I think that's really great. If Sicily for some reason doesn't get back up for some reason, who's your next in? Who are you going for Sis if it wasn't Sis?
I had it up here before. It wasn't Jack Sinclair. Give me a second, boys. It was Jordan Dawson. So I'm pretty high on him, especially with the captaincy. So yeah, if Sis is out, then I'm going Dawson.
Mate, I could be wrong, but I'm going to speak on behalf of all our listeners out there. Get that microphone right up by that mouth, because we want to hear everything you have to say, mate. So Dawson was your go, was it?
Dawson, yes.
Beautiful.
Yes, sir.
Love it. All right, let's jump into that midfield. It's looking strong. I'm sure you got a few little players there you want to talk about. I can see a lot of blue and white, mate.
And I wanted to fit another one in there, which was Tommy Powell. After what I saw him do, he was pretty much best on for our intra-club, which I know you don't take any notice of, Rob, because every time I mention intra-club, you just kind of look at me like I'm stupid, like I'm Jason Francis.
Mate, it's good to see when you've been off our podcast as Father of the Year, you have been listening along to the banter that we're throwing away in regards to North Melbourne intra-clubs.
Yeah, I take a lot out of them. So I wanted to get Tommy Powell in. Let's try and get him in the next couple of weeks. But so for my D1, I got Lachie Neale. Pretty self-explanatory. I think I picked him. He's my favourite player to pick in that top bracket. Over Clayton, Oliver, and Rory Laird. I just think Brisbane's due for like another massive year. Lachie Neale carries them. He's just at another level. I think he'll get the captaincy as well. So that could give him a bit of a pep in his step. And yeah, for me, in that top 5 bracket, he's the one that I feel the safest in. Jack Steele, we've talked about him a lot. I think at that price, he's an absolute lock. Due for a big year. Under Ross the Boss, I won't talk about him too much because we've talked about him. Now this man coming up, I don't know. I really think he could just take his game to the next level and get to that top 3, top 5, Supercoach madness, because he is just what I always said about LDU.
Mate, why are you always like top 3, top
man,
5 midfielder? I'm marking it. I'll mark
top
it.
5.
It's
Give me
marked.
top 5. What I've always said about him is he's just got so much explosiveness. He uses the ball so well. He gets out of traffic like no one else. And I always said, man, if he could just pick up his disposals from that like 15 to 22 and get up to over 30, he could just be anything, right? So he's that type of Brownlow medalist he's like a Lachie Neale who can just dance his way through the crowd, go anywhere, right, and carry this team on his shoulders. And I think with Clarko there, he'll really lift his game. North will be better, and he'll turn into that really elite premium midfielder. He had a couple of those games last year where he had like 35 and 38 touches. I think he'll be doing that every second or third game. And his crappy games will be like, 26 disposals, 2 goals. And yeah, that's what you'll see out of this man this year. That's my lock. Do we need to do anything else on this podcast, or I feel like I'm done?
I feel like you made an outrageous comment first, and then you actually backed it up with something like reasonable, and then you just went a bit unreasonable again. You went with, if he went from 15 disposals to 22 to 30, he's now a Brownlow medalist. I think that's any player in the AFL if they went from 15 disposals to 22 to 30. So now in the. Then you said, what I did like you saying is that hopefully he is going to have a bigger. So let me rephrase that. His gap between his worst and his best is hopefully going to become a lot smaller. Yeah. And I think that's what he's hopefully going to show. So I don't doubt you there.
Yeah. If Ben Cunnington's fit and does a lot of the dirty work in the middle, then you could see LDU being a beneficiary of that. Because LDU was doing a lot of that last year because Greenwood was really, really struggling, and he hardly got a game. So LDU's that outside player. He's not so much inside. If Cunnington is fit, healthy, and firing, and having a little bit more midfield time, then you could see LDU and Simpkin, but especially LDU would be the beneficiaries. All right, gents. What's that? So we got Tommy Green. I don't need to explain that. Inside Bull. Young and should explode this year. We've got Jacob Hopper. Just at that price, I think you need to have him, according to a lot of sources, he's going really, really well at intra-clubs as well, and him and Taranto are playing full midfield. Will Ashcroft, Gunn, when the team was leaked, I was really, really surprised, but he was actually on ball with, I think, Lachie Neale and McCluggage. Philippou, I think that his comments, the comments that were made by Ross, really, really, how to say it, they're really, really big, I think, for Ross to say that he's the best prospect he's ever seen. So I think he's a round one startup and he should get plenty of opportunities. And at that price, I think he's a lock. Will Phillips, he's another one that should have a lot of midfield time this year after being really, really highly touted by North and missing last year with Galangela fever. I think everyone has to have him in his team just because of how many minutes he's going to get, and just see his price skyrocket. Then you got Johnson, who I think hopefully will take a wing at Freo. I've got another guy in the forward line who should take the other wing. But yeah, I think he's good at that price as well. And then you got Chesser and Drury. We don't really need to talk about that. We've talked about that in previous pods. But I think, just at those prices, they're locks. Critique.
Yeah, I'll ask you about LDU. So he was putting up those good scores in a shit side last year. Do you think now that they've got Clarko, now that they're firing, they've picked up some handy recruits and they're looking to be not top 8, but like I expect him to finish between 8th and 12th. LDU, is he going to back that up? Like now that he's got Cunnington beside him and these sorts of players, like I'm really liking the look of this Paul Curtis bloke. Not from a Supercoach point of view, but from a playing point of view. They've got some really good players in there. Jai Simpkin as well. So for me, they were pretty reliant on LDU last year. I think they've got a much better spread this year.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said before. I think that Cunnington will open it up for LDU. But yeah, and I don't see Curtis going into the midfield. I know that he's been trialled there a little bit in the practice matches. But he's that like typical small forward who can, who's a real point of difference as well. I really, really love his game. But I just see LDU building on last year. He's got a better coach, a better system in place where the only thing that you really, really want and need from him is more consistency. And I think that comes from our coaching group. We've got a really, really good coaching group down there at the moment, like Brett Ratton, obviously Clarko, and the assistant coaches and what they're getting this year is far outweighs what LDU has ever had. So I think that for that price, I can definitely see him exploding.
Okay. And another one I will ask, because a lot of your midfield's the same as mine, which I like. Lachie Neale. So there's only a certain amount of points that each team can get each game. And when you're talking about Lachie Neale, Josh Dunkley, Jared Lyons, Will Ashcroft, Dane Zorko, like the list goes, McCluggage, Cam Rayner, like Jared Berry, Rich, the list goes on with players at the Brisbane Lions that can potentially score quite well. Do you see Neale still being that uber premium 140s, 150s still?
Yeah, 100%. I think the only person that will affect him is Dunkley out of that group. And I still think that there's plenty to go around. Like you saw with the Dogs, their even spread and what they were able to do. Like McRae was a really, really big accumulator. But then you also had Bont, who was accumulator, kick goals. Then like Bailey Smith started to step up. But I don't see it as a spread. I just see Lachie Neale as the top dog and everybody else is under him. I see him as I see him as probably the best player in the AFL, to be honest. Okay. So yeah, for me, he's someone who I have the most confidence in, especially because Brisbane are building. They've been in a couple of prelims. They're probably building to just that. Hopefully next year's a grand final. And Lachie Neale can take another step as well with that. But to answer your question, I just don't see anybody being anywhere near close to him talent-wise on that list.
I still struggle to trust someone who's the one guy that could be tagged on that team. Yeah. That's my fear, that I invest my M1 into a guy that if he gets tagged, and you look at those names that Mickey Dell just ran off just then, if I'm rocking up to play Brisbane, I'm going to have to tag someone, and I'm tagging Neale to hopefully stop that outside run, to stop him. And I mean the outside runners in, he gets it out to gets it from the inside out to the outside runners. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, mate, his numbers speak for themselves. He's a quality footballer. I don't disregard with what you say and where he sits in players in the AFL, but I fear picking players that I know there could be a week that they get tagged. That's my fear. But we move on. It's good. Let me have a look. Let's get I'm going to bring in we'll reveal your whole team now so we can get into your rucks. Ooh. Hit us up, mate.
I'm going to cop a lot of crap for this. I know that because I don't have a certain We Are Marshall on my team. But that's okay. That's okay because what I've got is better than We Are Marshall. Okay. Because you got Tim English going into his prime. He's a player that he's already exploded. He's already a gun. And I think at that price, he's in his prime. he just needs to stay away from injuries and he'll skyrocket in price, right? And then you guys know my take on Brodie Grundy. I think that Max Gawn is going to go forward a lot more because the Ds need to score more. So you could see Ben Brown or someone get dropped. And then they've obviously got a plan because last year it didn't work. Geelong was just far and above better than everybody else. And I think the plan is they just need to score more goals. So Grundy's an elite ruck, just like Gawn is. And I think he'll take the load off it, and you'll see him. You'll see him as a top ruckman by the end of the season of what he deserves because he's kind of just been missing, right? No one really talks about Brodie Grundy anymore. Then Tickle. I hired a spy who hasn't been working and has just been going to Adelaide twice a week for the last 15 weeks. So thank you, Mick. Because I had no idea who Tickle was. I think I met his dad a few times, but yeah, I've never met Tickle. Yeah, Tess. Good old Tess. So yeah.
Conor McGregor's brother.
So yeah, I got that from Mixed Pigs. So thank you for that, sir. And apparently he's carving it up in intra clubs, playing for the ones, and yeah, he's going to explode. So those are my three rucks, and I do not miss Marshall.
I'm going to say this because I hope it actually stops you from doing it. I put $100 on it. Brodie Grundy is not in your team round one, and Rowan Marshall is.
I'll take that.
Well, I'm actually just saying it because that'll stop you from doing it, and it'll be the silliest thing you've ever done if you haven't
I'll double
switched
down.
it.
I'll double down. All right. I'll bet you $100 or a bolter bet that Grundy scores more than Marshall. Averages more this year.
Let me mark that. I will take. Wow.
And you can let me know on your next pod.
I want to take the $100. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind a bolter 6-pack more than anybody, but I'll take the $100 bet on that one. Or do we want to go another jersey bet, mate?
We'll discuss it. You can have a bit of time to think because I don't want you to get too nervous.
I'm confident, mate. You pick the number.
So I'll give you a bit of time to think, and you can let me know in your next pod when we do your team reveal. Okay?
I don't need to think. I have my own sole bank account now, and I am all over you picking the number of Rowan Marshall average more than Brodie Grundy this year.
Okay, well, we'll lock that in.
I like your pick with Grundy. I do. I don't think he's going to be a top 3 ruckman, but I think he's going to be serviceable. There's just too much between him and Gawn to go around. They're not. There's going to be games where he'll play 80% ruck and Gawn will play 20 and stay forward, and then another week they might trial something else. But I don't mind it.
I think Gawn's gone forward. 70 or 80%. Honestly, that's my prediction.
My question marks are around Tim English, and the viewers will think why, but you look at the players that are struggling in the preseason, you look back in years gone by that players that struggle in the preseason, they try and rush them back, they get hurt again, and they end up missing time. So for me, before you're picking a player like English, you'd want to make sure they get a good body of work in and a match ready before round 1 comes along. So I know with English he's had hamstring injuries, and for a ruckman he's got to get around the ground. So that's a big watch, that space for me. But the other two, I like them.
Can I just say this about Grundy? All right. So you look at the price list of where he's priced at the moment, and I don't think it'll get cheaper. So you've got around him within 6K, Rowan Marshall is 6K cheaper. Then you've got Goldstein, Nankervis, Blitzars, Nick Nat, Braden Pruce, McInerney. Doesn't one, I don't know about you boys, but doesn't one name stick out there of who is elite?
Absolutely. Yeah, good call. But no, nobody would sit here and say they don't rate Brodie Grundy as one of the best ruckmen in this generation that we've watched. The problem is he's gone to the team with the other best ruckman that we've seen in this generation. And we're talking about Supercoach points and spread, and they had a preseason game, and it didn't look like they were doing too much together. It's just there's too much to go around from the two of them. That's the risk that I have here, where you go, yeah, I just think when you've got somebody who you know is going to be the sole ruck, that the numbers speak for themselves when he's the sole ruck of that team or the number one ruck who's slightly cheaper. To me, it's just a no-brainer. Even a Darcy Cameron at 465,900. I'm not picking Darcy Cameron over Brodie Grundy if I'm picking my AFL team tomorrow. But in my Supercoach scores, I think Darcy Cameron's got more opportunity to score bigger than Brodie Grundy does based on the role that he's going to play possibly at Collingwood this year. That's all I'm getting at.
You boys got to trust the Melbourne Football Club that they know what they're doing, because they paid a lot of money for Grundy, right? And he's going to be their ruckman.
I think you'll find Collingwood paying half of his contract.
I think you've also got to trust the fact that Melbourne don't give a stuff about Supercoach and they're trying to win a premiership.
Well, that's how they're going to win it, with going forward and Grundy doing the ruck.
Anyways, mate, no one's questioning their lateness. Del, I'll let you have the final word, and then can I say one thing? I do love how you got Tickle on the bench and Madden on your bench for your forwards. I've done a similar thing there because I think Tickle's going to score. I don't have the knackers that Del has to put him in the side at the moment, but I'm going to take his cash and I'm going to use the loophole on the forward line. So I do like that. Del, I'd like your final word on this, and then Justin will move into your forwards, mate.
No, it's ballsy. I like it. Like, if English plays, he's going to score. I'd want to make sure that he's getting the body of work in first. Like, for us that have played a fair bit of footy, obviously not at the AFL level before, but to come back from a hamstring, you give it 2 or 3 weeks, then you've got to give it an extra week, and then at that level, they've got to get in 2 weeks of really solid work and then get back in the match sim before they can play. So, yeah, there's question marks around English. I like Grundy. I don't think he'll drop in price, but I don't think he'll go up that much. And I love that you're jumping on board the Teagle train, brother. Good work.
Thank you.
We'll let him have a sip of his beverage, and then we'll move into his forward line. He's got some interesting picks here. I like it, mate. Let's hear about your forwards.
Right, my forward line. So I've obviously got Josh Dunkley with 99% of the population. He should go well up in Brizzy, take a bit of a load off Lockie. Got Tim Taranto. So, yeah, we've heard that he is not playing any bit forward for Richmond. And Trent Cotchin is going to go forward, which that'll be an interesting experiment. So you've got a couple of hybrids there, like Dusty, Shai Bolton, couple of hybrid mid forwards. So Taranto going purely in the midfield. He's even had shout outs for like a Smokey for a Brownlow. I won't go that far, but I think he'll go really, really well this year. Ben Long is someone who I have been really, really high on because North were chasing him this off-season as well. And then the news that he signed with the Gold Coast. I looked into it a little bit more, and it was mostly due to the fact that they said that they're going to promise him playing time and at that halfback role. So he's got dash. He's got a lot of speed in that halfback role. I mean, Jack Zeeble and Aaron Hall are the biggest advocates of this. They are high scorers, but to be honest, not that good footballers. So, if he is down there playing that half-back role, then he could, especially at that price, he could really, really, rise in price, and he could be really, really good value at that mid-price. Michael Frederick, I really, really like him as well because he is apparently going to move to the wing from the forward line, take that spot from where Blake Acres has left to Carlton, produce a little bit of dash on that wing as well. So I would really, really like to see how he goes, and I think he's a bit of value at that same price point. Sheasel wasn't in my team last week from North, but watching the intra club, because I do watch intra clubs with a lot of attention, not like someone else I know. So Sheasel, I've fallen in love with him because his hands are so clean, and he uses the ball so well. And I think that was what Taron Thomas was going to do in our backline. And I think that if Clarko is going to use him, he should use him off half back and kind of do the Nick Dacos of last year. So whenever anybody in North Melbourne has the ball, they should just have tunnel vision for Sheasel and just give him the ball and he will produce something spectacular, right? I've got a lot of faith in the kid now after watching his off season. So he's a big one for me, and I think Clarko will love him because we don't have good ball users at North at the moment. Like our last couple of years, like Zeeble just gets the ball and just shanks it 70 meters, and it's just been a mess, to be honest, our back line. So I'd love to see him go forward, but maybe he can do that in a couple of years when we're in grand finals and stuff, right? Toby McLean, he's pretty self-explanatory as well. He has come back from injury, but obviously he scores well. He can fill the void that his mate Josh Dunkley has left and be that hybrid mid-forward. Then obviously got Nick Madden for the loophole, which has been explained a lot, so I won't go into that. And then Oscar Allen, because I don't have much faith in Nick Nat, and Oscar Allen is cheap, I see him as a lot of value at the moment. Not because I think he's going to score well, purely just because I think that he will score, and then you can just catch him out after a couple of rounds, right, of doing well. And he's also some insurance to see how Nick Nat does go, because if he goes down, then obviously Oscar Allen will get a little bit more ruck time, and they're going to try to develop him a lot with, all their key forwards pretty much gone. So
I'm going to give you a little bit of intel here. I'm going to save you $130,000 and get the guy who's actually going to possibly step up on the wing for the Fremantle Dockers, and his name is Liam Henry, sitting at $202,000.
I've heard that.
They picked him up as a high early draft pick a couple of years ago as a small medium-sized forward, and he has shown a bit of talent in that position. But with his speed and his efficiency, he's been playing up on the wing in these intra-club matches, and from all accounts of everything that I've heard, he's been doing it extremely well and looks like that he might be consolidating that position. So at $202,000, if you're looking at that looking at that Fredericks, I should say, or Johnson, I don't think Johnson's quite in their best 22 just yet. I think watch Liam Henry move up onto that wing at $202K.
I heard he's unhappy and he wants to go to a Melbourne team.
Bit of time on the wing, bit of wing time might help you in a premiership looking team. So from all accounts, from what I hear, is he's a lot of talent. They put a lot of time into him. I think he's got a lot of love for Mickey Walters and those types at Freo. And I think he gets a lot of love from this footy club. I think it's just been a matter of just trying to find that position for him. He was a quality player in the state under 18s, and I think it's just a matter of finding where his best niche is. But mark my words there to be a bit of a wing, Liam Henry.
What better way to sell yourself than to play well if you're not happy at a club too? Sell yourself to other clubs. This is what I can do. So if that's the case, and Rob's intel's spot on, which so far it has been, he looks like a really nice pick. I've got to watch more of this Sheasel. If what you're saying's spot on, he sounds like a Nick Martin from the Dons. I love it.
Yeah, he could be.
We'll get around him. My question mark with your forward line, mate, would be Ben Long. So at St Kilda, I'd probably trust old Nunes Curry over him more. It's probably going to go through you, but at least the pain will be over a lot quicker. So
that's hot.
Yeah, just I like it, and I hope he plays that role at Gold Coast. But consistency-wise, I just don't see it, mate.
Look, I reckon I've gone the most risk out of all
I
of
think
us.
you have. Yeah.
And I think I just like those mid-price guys who can go up, right? Who can really, really do something for you. Those are my favourite type of guys to look at. I'd rather finish 18th or finish first. It's just there's no in between. You don't get prizes for finishing, finishing runner up or finishing third or fourth. Just go for it. Ladies and gents, just go for it. Do what Clarko's doing and just go for it.
Mate, you've been listening to our mid-price maniac shows for sure. And mate, hopefully one day we'll be putting their photo up on the wall, stepping up to, and look, they're not wrong. Like Nick Haynes, Ben Long, Michael Fredericks, they all have the ability to, step up in that position. I think you've just got maybe a couple in there that'll give you a headache. I would say similar to what I said to Mick Dell and his team. I would say pick one, not one out of those three. I'd say pick one out of Long and Fredericks. I don't think you'll get the value you're looking out of the two of them. I just don't think you will. But mate, if I knew everything, I'd have all the cash for winning the competition. But
that's right.
Beautiful, mate. I like it. I think you summed it up very well there. You've definitely taken more risk than the two of us. I don't think there's anything too crazy in your risk. I think there's method to the madness. You've backed it up. You've given a lot of the listeners something to think about today as well, and that's what we're all about on this Molten Fantasy Sport podcast.
Yep.
I will go to Mick first for his final word, and Justin, I'll come to you, and then we'll wrap it up. Mick, what's your final word, mate?
I like your team, Justin. It's out there. It's different. It's full of pods, and it could pay off for you. So I admire your balls, mate. Good work. And from a Molten Fantasy point of view, I'd like to give a shout out to Benny Murdoch and Timmy Ryan. These boys have been commentating a lot on our videos, so thank you. We appreciate the love. And I want to remind the viewers to, send through your questions. We're happy to answer them, whether it be by Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You'll see our Twitter handles under our names as we're on here. Send us through some love. We're really enjoying this.
Look, I'll sign it off with my last thoughts on this. I just don't see it as a big of a risk. Like, I know I said I took the most risk, but I look at the players and I look at their prices and I'm like, I can't see how much they're going to drop. Like, Nick Haynes is 318 grand. That's bloody cheap, right? Ben Long is 353. What's the worst that he could go down to? Like 280 or 290. And then you got Fredericks, who's at 330. At the worst, Fredericks is a goal kicker on a really, really good side, right? So I just see with those guys, I don't see it as big of a risk as probably you boys do. But I could be wrong and they could all fail and my team could finish last and I could be the wooden spooner just like my beloved North Melbourne Kangaroos. Or I could rise like Clarko's rising and lift that cup, baby.
Light the beam.
Light that beam.
I feel like it would be the type of team that I'd want to play round one, but then I reckon you could get some serious upgrade value throughout the year. I think there's no doubt there. But, mate, this is what we're all about, is showing the people some different ways to think about Supercoach, and that is what we're doing. And on that note, everybody who's been listening, everyone who's been following along, massive shout out to you all. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Do not miss an episode between now and round one because it is time to get those teams ramped and ready. There's only one more team to be revealed, and it is my team. But Mickey Dell, I think, is going to give us the Supercoach League code for you to all come along into our unlimited league. I can see him searching your way. I'm going to try and talk a little bit more nonsense till he gets here. Mickey Dell, what is the code for people
guys, for those of you playing at home, the league code is 237113. So
one more time.
We've got 45 people in there so far, so it's filling up quite quickly. It's good. We want to get that to 100 to 200 people before the season starts. So I do want to remind people at home that us lads have gotten together, as well as the other lads at Molten, and we've got some prizes to give out throughout the year, which we'll reveal closer to the start of the season. But that lead code again, 237113. It is a free entry, and you do go in with a chance to win some prizes that we've put up for the guys and girls that are going to join the league. So get on board.
Get on it.
I was about to say what the prize was. Are we doing a later reveal? Are we? Okay, good.
We are.
I missed. I don't get to a lot of the meetings. I must have missed that one. Very glad you said that, because I was about to say, how good is the prize? I bloody well want to win. I bloody well want to win, because I think the prize is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, that's enough from us. Justin, rip a team. We've got one more team to reveal, which is my team. For everyone listening at home, thank you. This has been the Molten Fantasy Sport Podcast. Until next time, peace.
See ya.